continuing the conversation with rappers and rabbis as we celebrate the life and the legacy of the late great Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., as well as other revolutionaries and leaders of the civil rights movement, all the way into the new civil rights and Black Lives Matter movement of the last few years. I think it's important that we acknowledge those who gave their knowledge and power to positive means in bringing people together in the world. Dr. Martin Luther King is quoted as saying that when life itself offers no order and meaning, the musician creates an order and meaning from the sounds of the earth which flow through his instrument, his or her instrument. And what we're going to talk about tonight is also the importance of music and poetry as we talk about civil rights and human rights, women's rights, and everybody that matters in the world. We're going to get into it tonight. We have special guests all across the board, as y'all can see. I go by Digital Crates, and we're going to go through and have everybody introduce themselves right after this short video. Just want to thank everybody for tuning in. Shalom. I'm Digital Crates, coming to you as producer of Rappers and Rabbis, which is pretty much what it sounds like. We are a group of leading hip hop and rap music educators, including a Grammy Award winner and a Bible rapper. We came together during the quarantine to pursue Jewish excellence, a Jew-Tang clan, if you will. We're excited to share with your communities a prayer service they will never forget as we perform remixed prayers from our new release, the Hip Hop Liturgy Volume 1. The kids will love Ali, Matt, Eric, and myself as we turn the prayer service into a holy hip-hop show. In addition to performing, we will also offer rap recording workshop for small and large groups. After a guided text study with everyone, some participants will create the beat, many will go on with the rappers to write the raps, and a few will even create the visuals to go with the songs. When we're done, we will have music videos that everyone is proud of about a lesson in Judaism with our own oral hip-hop tradition. We'd love to do a Shabbat or week residency with your community and our other partners in the area. Please email rappersandраbbis2020@gmail.com with any questions. Thank you very much. So hopefully that breaks it down. One thing we're really looking forward to this summer is a summer camp tour experience featuring the talents of Revere and Mr. E, both who are with us tonight. But before we get to that, I think let's just go around the circle. Let's kick it off with one of the co-founders of Rappers and Rabbis, Rabbi Adam Meir. How are you doing tonight?
Everybody, hello. Have a good Shavua Tov. It'll be a good week for us all. From Atlanta, Georgia, representing the Southeast, but the north part of the Southeast, because we got Florida folks here, and but coming together specifically for Martin Luther King Day. I'm excited to hear how we continue to share stories of freedom and seek them out where we go.
All right, let's pass it off to Ruach Rael. I love that.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Rachel, also known as Ruach Raquel. I am one of the newer members of Rappers and Rabbis, but still very thrilled to be here. And of course, absolutely, I'm so honored to be able to join on this topic and discuss this most important, amazing part of our world. We have to talk about it. So thank you.
Yeah, I mean, long as it should have been, MLK Day is now a national holiday, and I think it's really a blessing. It used to be like an optional service or community day for schools and companies, but now it's kind of mandatory that we take this time to commemorate the honored legacy of Dr. King. So let's keep going and let's introduce Internal Rhyme, live and direct from the Philadelphia area.
Hey everyone. Yes, my name is Jeremy, aka Internal Rhyme, and I'm back in Philadelphia after a long stint in Los Angeles that I really enjoyed, but have come back home. And yeah, I'm honored to be here tonight. MLK Day is obviously super important, and talking about the history of civil rights for Black Americans, and just the history, or like the importance of civil rights in general. And using this day, obviously not as the only reminder, but as a reminder every year, is really important. So I appreciate being here with R&R to talk about that tonight.
All right, and next to you we have the most rappingest rabbi in training that I know, the future of rappers and rabbis. Revere, how you doing tonight?
Hey, it's wonderful to be out here and to really celebrate the diversity of the Jewish community and the diversity of our relationship with the Black community. It's such an important day to go out and do service and to commemorate the valiant life of Dr. Pastor Martin Luther King.
It's kind of incredible. A bunch of us were just recently out in Cleveland in December for the holidays, as we did a mini retreat and a hip hop concert that was based on the building of the strength of the communities of the Black and Jewish communities, Shaker Heights and Cleveland Heights, Ohio. Revere, I mean, you crushed it, man. Gave such an amazing, memorable performance, especially of the Shema, which we'll get into tonight. But before we go any further in continuing the conversation, let's pass the rock over to Mr. E, who is going to introduce himself, but then also introduced his spoken word piece called Unity.
All right. Glad to be here. Grateful to be here. Thank you, Crates. Thank you, rest of the R&R team. Yours truly, Mr. E, New Jersey Regional Director of Rappers and Rabbis. Again, just really grateful to be here on this day of MLK Day, representing right here with Unity MLK. As Crates had mentioned, we went out to Cleveland, Ohio, and we were able to see the diversity of Judaism, partnering with organizations like Rekindle and the retreat that we hosted in November. So those are some part of my responsibilities as well, is doing these retreats. And we already have a new one in April, which we have on the calendar. So look forward to that. But without further ado, honoring the late, great Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. This poem right here is titled Unity. And I hope that you enjoy.
We face the difficulties of today and tomorrow. I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream.
In honor of the late great Junior, also known as Dr. Martin Luther King, it's only right that I not just pay homage, but continue on the fight for peace, which be everlasting. See, upon my observation of this nation, we came a long way since segregation. So in that case, yes, we have improved. Although racism is still alive, you can see it in the news. You see, a dream without action is simply just a dream. Dr. King envisioned a unified nation like the USA Olympic Dream Team. He foresaw people of all colors holding hands with one another, not as enemies, but connected as sisters, brothers, fathers, mothers. You see, change could take place, but it must start within our community. If we can stay calm and build unity, there's no unity without you and me. We're living in a time of civil rights movement eulogy. So take a stand or take a seat. Like Rosa Parks, a rose could grow in a park that's concrete. With an open mind and with an open heart is the best place where we could meet. Unified, we can't be beat. So keep moving your feet to be elite. Spread love and make heat. I wrote this in honor of the late great MLK. I no longer see black and white, I see gray.
I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up, live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, sons sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners, will they be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood? I have a dream.
Mr. E, I would love it if you could just talk about some of the deeper bits of the inspiration that you put into the writing and composition and filming of that piece, as it's incredible, and we want to thank you for blessing the cipher with that.
Thank you. Yes, so the inspiration behind that piece, as a matter of fact, I believe the school year was 2016. At the time, I was working as an assistant performing arts instructor in downtown Newark at a school called Link Community Charter School. And I remember the teacher's name was Miss Johnson, and she instructed the children to do something to celebrate MLK Day, something on stage as a theater act, if you will. And, I was in there in the class and I kind of felt inspired, and I was trying to get some of the kids to do some writing that I just kind of felt inspired. And I ended up writing that poem, from that prompt, and ended up actually creating it and turning it into that. That same piece with that class, I broke the class out into 18 different kids. There was 18 students, and each of them had to remember like one bar, if you will. So they came up and said the one bar. And so it was pretty cute. But I'm grateful. I got to also perform that at the Newark Museum that same year. So MLK is somebody that we should all aspire. If we could even do, a fraction of what he was able to accomplish in this world. So I thought that it was only right to write an ode to him. And I hope that you guys enjoyed. Thank you.
Yeah, it's really an incredible piece. The addition of the music and the quotes and everything in there. It's really something special. Thank you, E.
My pleasure.
And so I want to kind of shift the focus into what we call continuing the conversation. And we're going to pass the rock over to Rabbi Adam Meir. And Rabbi, maybe you could kind of give your perspective on the meaning of today as it means for us as Jewish people who have also been oppressed heavily in the world, and what we can do to kind of strengthen our communities all together in a time where there seems to be quite a rift, and what we can do to strengthen everything and bring some more peace and honor and stability to the world.
Yeah, there are definitely some rifts going on among different communities, within communities, between communities, and for me, a day to in honor of Martin Luther King Jr. Is it's a day that helps remind us of kind of a higher calling of what we are to do, and I love the way that he draws on the writings of the Tanakh, of the Old Testament, and his speeches are full of the allusions of the prophets of I'm hoping for a better day, and for me it brings us back, because we as Jews have been telling the story of when we were oppressed back in the days of Egypt, and we've been telling the story of our oppression and of our freedom for and we've ritualized it into the Passover ritual, as well as daily reminders, within that cycle. For me, it's really become kind of the two poles of this kind of cycle of consciousness. Of, on the one hand, aspiring to be free, and then with that freedom, in the story of Exodus, with that freedom comes a new responsibility delineated by the laws of the Torah, of how to now live a responsible and ethical communal life. So that's what we get when you're free, and then so that comes with the limitations of society, and those can feel constrictive when done wrong, or when abused, and when the power is abused, and that's the cycle of what happens, of freedom and of and of oppression. And so I really see it as a cycle that different cultures go through at different times, but we're able to see kind of, for me at least, being able to see it as a cycle can give hope, and can also give a very kind of stark slap in the face of, right, just because we've achieved a certain level of freedom or a certain experience of freedom doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to stay the way that it is. And it's really, it continues to instill the responsibility of working this towards freedom, continually working towards freedom, even after we have it. Freedom should if we can have a sense of freedom, then we can have the capacity to look around to the left and to the right and to see who else we can bring out. And if we're stuck, then hopefully someone near us is able to bring us out. So that's kind of where I'm taking it. And in terms of continuing the conversation, there are still quite a lot of ways in which we are not free, in which our fellow Americans, in which Black people in the Black community, people in the Jewish community, people in all different kinds of communities might be stuck in whatever way they are. And that's right. Continuing the conversation makes us aware of that, and really sparks the light under us to make us take action.
Yeah, I mean, it's like there seems to always in history be a conflict between freedom and equality. And there's no reason for that. Like, one person's freedom should not be at the cost of anyone else's. If we're all free and all created equal, there should be a direct correlation between equality and freedom. And unfortunately, it's just not that. It's definitely a struggle. What are some things through prayer and through, Torah study that we can look towards to like maybe bridge that gap a little bit more between freedom and equality?
So there is a chapter in Devarim, in Deuteronomy, I believe, chapter 15. I'm not gonna look it up, but it starts with the blessings of the land, where when the Israelites living in the land of Israel, if they follow the rules to live, and live a good life, including, letting the land have its rest in the seventh year. If you follow the rules, and then it says in the beginning of the chapter, there will be no needy people among you, right? There will be, and the needy people are the ones who get oppressed, right? Yeah. And then later on in the same chapter, like 4 verses later, it says, if there will be needy people among you, here's how you should treat them. And then a few verses later, it says, and something to the extent of, you should know that there will always be needy people among you. So here's how you have to do. And that development within one chapter, from the promise that there will not be any needy to if there is, and then finally to the reality that there always will be, is in some way kind of a wake-up call to the human social reality that we all have things that we need, right? That kind of, there is some element of suffering which is so human that there's no escaping it. And at the same time, we're told that that the more we can be there to help other people. A person in the Talmud, it said a person cannot pull himself out of a pit. Right? You need someone else to come and pull you out of the pit. But as soon as you're out, you can be the person to pull someone else out. So that as a balance, kind of, to this idea of that there always will be some kind of suffering, but sometimes it's worse than other times, and sometimes it's directed at you, but sometimes it's not directed at you, and you get to be the one who's in the moment not in the pit, but you have to look down and reach down your hand and pull someone else out.
Yeah, Jesse Jackson, the great Jesse Jackson, thought leader, has a quote that I love. He says, "The only time you should look down on someone is when you're helping them back up." And I've always tried to live my life like that, and we're at a time race and politics aside, we're at a time right now where literally a carton of eggs costs more than an hour of minimum wage in this country in America. And it's like there are more and more people of all cultures and races and ethnicities that are quote unquote needy. And I think we all need to kind of look in the mirror and see how much more we can afford to help one another out in this time and age. There's no doubt
Yeah.
about it.
And that's that's an afford to help each other out, monetarily, but it's also, just emotionally, and sharing a good word, or something like that. We all have a certain kind of bandwidth, using that metaphor that we operate with, and the more I'm having, usually, not always, but usually the harder the harder my day is, the more I'm thinking about myself and my own needs, and the more free that I think I am, or that I feel that I am in this moment, suddenly that expands, and I already have, and that in and of itself is what gives me energy to to help others. And I guess I'll say one last verse from the Psalms is Min Hameitzar Karatiya. I call out to God from the narrow straits, then from a place of narrowness, of constriction. And Anani B'merchavia, and the answer, God answers me with a wideness, with an expanse. That sometimes that expanse itself is the answer, right? It's a narrow-minded thinking, or narrow-minded attention, or all my attention is only on myself, and those are ways to get stuck. And the answer is the expanse. That suddenly looking towards someone else, or looking towards, how can I do something for someone else, or how can I just take a deep breath and feel that there's more, I'm breathing in air from outside of myself. That breaks it open.
And there's two, main tenets of Jewish culture that is just for that. One of them being tzedakah, and the other one being simply pure mitzvot. Maybe for our viewers that aren't familiar, if you could explain those two concepts of tzedakah and mitzvot, and how we can all maybe instill more of those practices in our everyday lives.
Yeah, absolutely. So tzedakah is the Hebrew word for charity, for giving money, usually money to anyone who needs, and and we have a communal obligation that a person should give tzedakah within the community if there is that need, and to search for such a need if there isn't in the immediate community, to search in the wider community to be able to give. And traditionally, a person is encouraged or to give as much, 10% of what they have. Right, a person should be able to live on 90% of what they make. That's the idea behind it, for kind of an equity within society, an equitable kind of balance. And that so that is an example of one of a mitzvah, and mitzvot in general. So mitzvot means commandments, and one of them would be a mitzvah. So there are lots of different kinds of commandments. Commandments between, and that a person is supposed to do for God, like prayer or certain rituals, and there are commandments that obligate a person for how a person should behave with a fellow person. So things like not stealing, or giving charity, or taking care of the sick. Right, those will all be commandments. And I guess for the word mitzvah, is actually the word commandment in Hebrew is connected to this word, a word of connection, right? The tzav in the middle of a mitzvah is some kind of connection, and that the doing of mitzvot is something that connects you to this frequency of holiness, to connects you to God, connects you to the holiness of the community, and of humanity, and that it's all it's all one holiness, and that's back to the theme of unity. So the mitzvot are what kind of brings us together to to have that connection through through holy and good actions.
Yeah, and that's one of the main parts of the continuing of the conversation is knowing that we are all one, one body, one mind. Clearly, there is proof that as men and women and humans like around the world, we are all, you know, I mean, for lack of a better term, like we're all basically skin and bones, you know what I mean? Mind and body and soul. And when we talk about religion, especially, one thing that every religion does, no matter what religion it is, there's always that same connection in prayer and prayer in action, moving prayer. And one of the most important prayers in Judaism is the Shema, which kind of like ties a lot of these themes together. I don't know if I can just pass it over to Revere, who has definitely become one of the central figures of our fellowship in performing the Shema. Very powerful prayer and remix song that we have. Revere, maybe if you could just talk about the importance of reciting the Shema, and not just the Shema, just the importance of reciting and performing prayer as an act of oneness in mind, body, and soul.
Thank you. Yeah. So the Shema Yisrael in prayer, the prayer, you can see it as kind of like a mountain. And as you go through the prayer, you're meditating and preparing yourself for the central moment when you're able to be united with the environment that you're in and with every single person around you. And the way or the mechanism that you're able to get attuned to that oneness is the first word of the prayer. The first word of the prayer is Shema, to listen. And when you open your ears and when you're able to be in a state of meditation where you're acutely aware of the space around you, that's when you're able to open up the first word of the second part of the prayer, which is ve'ahavta, love. Love is opened up from a place of opening yourself up to those around you. I think that teaching is very central and core to the teaching of Martin Luther King Jr., where he said that in order to be a people with equality, it's to be able to hear and see all of those within our communities, not the ones that are just central to our own communities, but opening ourselves up to seeing the entirety of our communities.
Yeah, and MLK himself has an incredible quote, so powerful. He said, "Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that." And with those words, we're going to play our remix prayer of Shabbat by Rappers and Rabbis, which you can check on our debut album, Rappers and Rabbis Volume 1, online now.
One time for your mind, one time for your mind. One guy from the squad, one guy from the squad, one guy from the squad. One time for your mind, one time for your mind. One guy from the squad, one guy from the squad, one guy from the squad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Adonai Echad.
Breathing what is Holy Spirit like? 1 foot, 1 love, and 1 mic. 1 race, 1 God, and 1 light. 2 hands, 1 left and 1 right. The many and the all involved in 1 fight. When divisions the plight is solved and we unite. Cause 1 ain't free if all ain't free. And you are not you if I am not me. Contemplate, elevate with the Elohim. Rappers and rabbis, 1 hell of a team. Building with the Musar, expressing a few bars. Traveling so far to the sound of the shofar.
1 of a kind hanging from the 1 vine. Wild grapes in the shade sometime become fine wine with a little sunshine. It's an hour past noon, can I get a 1 time? 1 time for your mind, 1 time for your mind. 1 guy from the squad, 1 guy from the squad, 1 guy from the squad. 1 time for your mind, 1 time for your mind. 1 guy from the squad, 1 guy from the squad, 1 guy from the squad. Shema Yisrael, prophet, but he who parted the sea is a part of me. When I look in my heart, I see the same history and mystery. I'm G-D'd up, I'ma read up with my feet up. Sabbath is just practice so we all get freed up. Please plant your seeds up, Israel's the bride and the groom's inside. One of a kind hanging from the one vine. Wild grapes in the shade sometime become fine wine with a little sunshine. It's an hour past noon, can I get a one time? One time for your mind, one time for your mind. One God from the squad, one God from the squad, one God from the squad. One time for your mind, one time for your mind. One God from the squad, one God from the squad, one God from the squad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Adonai Echad.
So like I said, we all recently became one in a retreat, both in November with the organization known as Rekindle, which strengthens communications and unity between the Black and Jewish communities. And then we also got together in Cleveland to bridge that gap even further by hosting an amazing concert with Nassim Black. At that retreat, we started working on a bunch of new music that was part of what we call continuing the conversation, which is taking everything that we learned about in our educational sessions and put that into music. And one of the stars of those musical sessions was none other than Ruach Rachel. Rachel, maybe you could talk about your experience at the retreat and what it meant to you, and then maybe we'll play a new song that we've been working on for everybody.
Wow. Okay. What I experienced at the retreat and what it meant to me is, first of all, just a huge subject because I got so much out of this. I mean, just for context, I had recently, literally a few days before the Rappers and Rabbis retreat, I had been at an all-inclusive 8-day retreat in Cancun, Mexico with a bunch of musicians. I got so much more out of Rappers and Rabbis. Okay, I had so much more. Just friendship and joy and creative power and fire. It was like nothing else I'd ever experienced. I mean, for goodness sakes, it launched me into a whole new genre. I've been a musician for many, many, many years, and I've been in the pop folk genre, and I had never rapped or thought of myself as someone who could rap. And here I am. I'm probably going to spit a line tonight. So it was life-changing, literally life-changing. And I feel that the friends that I made and the connections that I made at Rappers and Rabbis are going to be friends for a lifetime. So I know that's a bold statement, but I'm just going to throw it out there. Y'all are my squad, and I can't wait to continue with the music. So I wouldn't change a thing. It was snow flurries on the way there. I almost thought that I would perish just getting to the retreat, but it was totally worth it because of all the goodness that it has brought me.
Yeah, and one of the songs that we started working on is a remix of the integral Jewish prayers from our Friday night services and from almost all services and gatherings, which is the Hamotzi and then the blessing over the wine, Berei Peri Hagafen. Maybe, Rachel, you could just talk about your inspiration to hop on this track and kind of like how you came up with the idea to take simple concepts such as breaking bread and sipping wine and mixing the Jewish element into, something that's metaphorically not just about breaking bread and sipping wine. It's about togetherness. And maybe you could talk about your inspiration to getting on this song.
Oh, this is so exciting. Yes, indeed. A world debut of this song. What an honor. I mean, the song itself is so incredible because the chorus says Blacks and Jews, you know how the story goes, we changed the rules. And that's so powerful to me, just the fact that we're coming together and being in this togetherness. And as far as my inspiration to jump on the track, I was just listening to the original and genius work by Tulu Waupe and his amazing rap. And I was thinking about, well, I mean, I'm also a teacher. I also teach and educate, and I teach very young children, 0 to 5 years old. And so we were trying to light the Shabbat candles, but it didn't work. Why? And I was like, why won't it work? Why won't it work? And then one of the kids calls out, because we didn't do the blessing, of course. Wow. And so I had that in my mind while I was listening to it, and the blessings just popped in like they were made for that beat. It was rather magical, actually.
Amazing. So yeah, I got to give a big shout out below me to Internal Rhyme on that retreat. Was really what we quote unquote in the community call a song leader. He was really kind of spearheading the vocal production of some of these songs. He will eventually be featured on this song. We're working on getting his verse on there as soon as possible. So for everybody tuned in, this is not a finished version, but it is a world premiere of a song that's really going to be something special from one of our upcoming projects. It's called Break Bread, Sip Wine, featuring the wise and amazing Tolu, Rachel, and soon to come.
Grace from Father above, within, whatever you believe in. To the modern day prophets rising like kings and queens, living testimonies, hungry for the word. 20 seconds seeing through God's eye. Talk less, tap into his mind. Divine like Dory, most never seen Elijah in his prime. Sip wines and break bread like Shabbat. I send a shalom, peace in the Middle East. Righteous bars, still spitting like a lyrical beast. Up in the Poconos with my sisters and bros. You know how the story goes, straight from the bricks with it. I get you down in Lagos mainland. Only if you understand the power of prayers and prophecy, then you understand me. Maybe you understand we. Maybe you understand we just came to make history. Maybe you understand that we just came to build this legacy. As we all come together in unity. Blacks and Jews, you know how the story goes. Change the rules. Reform the truths. From here on out, you know, we break bread, sip wines. I said blacks and Jews. You know how the story goes. We change the rules. From here on out, we break bread, sip wine. Break bread, sip wine.
We give thanks to God for bread. Our voices join in joyful chorus as our prayer is humbly said. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen, amen. Blessed is Adonai, who brings forth bread from the earth. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri agafen. Blessed is Adonai, creator of the fruit of the vine, creator of the wine, of the wine.
And also a big shout out to Mr. E on the background vocals. We call him the hype track. He's like the hype man on that joint, keeping it moving. So that's, like I said, it's in progress. It's in the works, but I'm really glad to preview that song tonight for everybody. I think it's like really important that not only in continuing the conversation, but in prayer, that we also give praise to tradition. Tradition is kind of what keeps the spirit of all cultures alive. And the tradition of song and of blessing is really the strongest one. So as a music producer, I'm totally honored to be working with everybody on this live stream and creating this incredible material. I don't know if maybe really quick we can go around before we get to like a final song. If we can get around and maybe just kind of just speak from the heart really quick. Maybe we'll just go around in the circle. Like, I'll switch the screen over here. We'll pass it to Revere. And let's just kind of go around and have everybody just kind of once again reiterate what the meaning of Martin Luther King Jr. Day means to you. And again, like what we can all do moving forward to continue the conversation about freedom and equality.
When MLK was preaching to the world,
All right, hold on, Devere, we're having some audio issues on your end. Let me see if you can get that fixed really quick.
Okay. Is this better?
Yes, much better.
My bad. So I was saying that when my grandfather was present for when MLK was preaching the civil rights movement. My grandfather was a rabbi in the South, in Houston, and it was very dangerous for the Jewish community to get involved in and to pay homage to the solidarity of the cause. But my grandfather said that there's nothing that would stop him, and so despite all of the advice of his community, he went to march in Birmingham, and he ended up being arrested with MLK, and MLK spoke to him and said, this is the Jews are also an oppressed people, and this is a dangerous moment. And my grandfather said, but it's because I am a Jew that I need to step up in this moment and represent my community, represent my people. And MLK had great respect for my grandfather for taking that risk.
Yeah, and here you are as proof that lineage of tradition of standing up for oneself and for others in their community that are afflicted by whatever it is, hate or bigotry or any sort of form of mistreatment. It's really amazing, and we really honor the legacy of your grandfather today, as long with Dr. King. And let's pass it over to Ruach Raquel. I love that. And just maybe you can kind of share some of your personal thoughts about today.
Thank you, and thank you so much for that premiere. What a pleasure. I was not expecting that coming on tonight, so that was a lovely surprise, and thank you again. I'm just gonna let myself be emotional for a minute and just say that I feel so deeply that I want to have more of a relationship with the African American and Black communities. It doesn't make sense to me why there's this awkwardness, or somehow like it's like why are we no longer friends? It doesn't make sense to me. It makes me incredibly sad when I think of that. And so this is where the rubber meets the road. If you're going to be friends with somebody, then you have to, it's all fine and good to be friends if all you're doing is getting together and, shooting the breeze and watching TV. But true friends are the ones who are there for you when times get tough. True friends are the ones who will help you out. And a best friend is the one who's in jail with you when you did something wild and crazy, or when you were standing up for freedom. And so it's a really tough commitment, and it's one that's needed. We need to be there with our words, with our deeds, and even maybe with our bodies, in order to be true friends. And I think that's what I feel called to do more and more. So hopefully I can.
Amen. Mr. E, we're going to pass it over to you. Mr. Unity himself.
Yeah, well, the poem kind of speaks many of my thoughts and feelings on the topic, but aside from that, as kind of riffing off of what Ruach Raquel was saying, I grew up with many African American close friends, And as she said, kind of taking that next step within the relationship. It's all, fun and games when you're just hanging out and whatnot. But there's another layer in the awareness of the outside realities for having the difference in complexions. So I think it's just the awareness and just MLK just as a speaker. I mean, you really just listen to speakers, and he's an inspiration as far as that goes. Just the way he speaks, and I truly think he's one of the great American role models. And I think the fact that his quotes have been passed down to this day, he has so many quotables. I think is just a testament to the man that he was, and just the work that he did. I think it's somebody that we can all aspire to follow in his footsteps. And he passed away how many years ago now, and all the fight that he was doing is still so relevant, to this day. So the fight for freedom continues, and for unity, it's still super important. So yeah, I think it's great that it was actually made into a holiday, and that more people are able to learn from a man who I think isn't, when you think about the word intentions, right? He's a great example of what it means to put an intention and then act upon it, speak about it, execute it. Yeah. Thank you.
We pass it over to Rabbi.
Yeah. Hey, yes, I think to close, I would just share that whenever, I am filled with, in addition to the necessity of the work, I'm also filled with a sense of hope when I hear Dr. King speak, and hope doesn't have to be coming from a good place. It could be coming from a hard place. There's a lot of work to do, but he makes it. His voice is a voice of hope, and that's something I think we all could use. At least I could. But I think we can, if we share that with each other and spread that around, that can go a long way.
Yeah, I have just an interesting anecdotal story, man. I've been working in the rap and hip hop music world for many, many years, and there was actually a time when there was certain members of the hip hop community that didn't want me in the studio. They're like, "Yo, we need to get this guy out of here, get this white guy out of here. Like he doesn't belong." And I actually was stood up for. There was a brother of mine who stood up and was like, "Hey, look, he's not just like your average white guy. Like here's a Jew that understands the struggle and is for us." And I've been kind of in the position where I've been fought for, and I know that when we join together, we're more powerful and unified. I want to read just really a couple quotes from Martin Luther King really quick that I love that were recently brought to my attention by Matt Fieldman from Rekindle. We were doing some chavruta and talking about Martin Luther King, and these quotes came up. Martin Luther King once said that my people were brought to American change in chains, and the Jewish people were driven here to escape the chains fashioned from them in Europe. Our unity is born together of our common struggle for centuries, not only to rid ourselves of bondage, but to make oppression of any people by others an impossibility. Oppressed people cannot remain oppressed forever. The yearning for freedom eventually manifests itself. The Bible tells the thrilling story of how Moses stood in the Pharaoh's court and cried, "Let my people go." This is the opening chapter in our continuing story. The present struggle in our country is a later chapter in the same unfolding story. Something within has reminded us of the birthright of freedom, and something without has reminded us that it can be gained. Those are quotes from the letter from a Birmingham jail in 1963, which is an incredible piece of literature written by Dr. King and is a must read for everybody looking to improve their lives in freedom and equality. I want to pass it over to Internal Rhyme. I want you to kind of maybe briefly talk about what this day means to you, but also introduce our final song of the night, which of course is Oseh Shalom.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, again, I am honored to be here tonight. Martin Luther King Jr. Day is incredibly and continually important. And like many members of this group said, that struggle that MLK, fought with his body, mind, and soul for, continues to this day and hasn't changed much. Then, if anything, has only transformed into, a new identity of the same struggle. So yeah, I think MLK's legacy needs to continue to be honored, as well as many other Black leaders in America. And as many other members of this group said, as a member of the Jewish community, it is not only a privilege and a blessing to be able to do so, but it is our duty to show up in these conversations, even when they are hard. So yeah, like Crate said, the last song we're gonna get into is Oseh Shalom, which I am blessed to have a verse on. It's definitely one of our R&R classics. And the prayer of Oseh Shalom, is just about bringing peace to the world. And like we were just alluding to in this conversation, peace comes not only just in good and easy manners, but, in the world we live in, it comes after a lot of struggle often. And, it's not a pretty process. But at the end, the thing that we are striving for is a more peaceful and just and beautiful world. And with that being said, Oseh Shalom. Here we are.
And I want to give a big shout out before we play this final song to the other co-founding members of Rappers and Rabbis, to Ali Text Rich Richardson, who was featured in this cover that I'm going to play in the background of the song. Big shout out to Rabbi Adam Meir for kind of headlining this service for us tonight, but then also to our other co-founder and director, Matt Barr, also to Jewish Federation of Greater Metro West New Jersey. Shout out to Upstart Labs and to Rekindle and Moishe House and everybody that's been a part of helping our organization to grow and succeed in continuing the conversation of how we can better, free, and make ourselves equal in the world. And without further ado, Oseh Shalom.
Shalom Bimroma, Booyah, say Shalom Aleinu, Le'al Kol Israel, Bimru, Amen. Oh, say Shalom Bimroma, Booyah, say Shalom Aleinu, Le'al Kol Israel, Bimru, Amen.
Y'all say Shalom, y'all say Shalom. Y'all say shalom, 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 y'all say shalom.
Y'all say shalom, I play Capone. Actually, I'm Maya, who passing me the lighter. We bout to take you higher. You waiting on Messiah. They hit you with the hezzy. Get on your Hezekiah. Till heaven is your climbing. The devil wants attention. I dead him off with silence. Though violence is cathartic, remember your assignment. Recorded on papyrus. They cannot ignore it, not even in the slightest. Talking about a blockchain, these tokens came from Titus. Before there was a pilot, we was flying on Osiris. Try it.
Sharp swords to prune force, then prune force to tune chords. A higher type of harmony when we know we ain't harming we. Sharp swords to prune force, then prune force to tune chords. A higher type of harmony when we know we ain't harming we. Say Shalom Bimroma, Booyah, say Shalom Aleinu, Le'al Kol Israel, Bimru, Amen. Oh, say Shalom Bimroma, Booyah, say Shalom Aleinu, Le'al Kol Israel, Bimru, Amen.
Y'all say shalom, 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 y'all say shalom.
One day we'll peace out, go fishing with Trump and Hillary Clinton. Eye to eye, fist to fist, no fist cuffs, only fist bumps. We need to talk it out.
Alphabet text, introduce yourself. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. Hi, H, I.
One day we could just listen to what the artist has written. Smidgens of hardest renditions of where the pain lies. One day we'll embrace differences, cause that type of division feels like an ending, but really it's just a gray sky. And it hardly ever rains on the west side, but I'm rocking with the gang out of best time, trying to unify, shout to the next time. Gotta get by with a head high and set the example. I know the fight that's a hand is a handful. Just settle down, get around. With my brother MC and we don't mean no Rambo. Hip hop is a sample of the feeling of peace that projects from the core. Let us dismantle the systems that keep us attached to the floor. Ain't back in the war. I throw two fingers up to the Shemesh. Stick to my moral ground, that's how I stay sound without no regrets. I got the best love and I'm spreading it far as it gets. And I tell you to bless up, cause reality hard as a desk. So when I'm starting to fret, gotta let anxiety get away. Cause I know larger the stress, the larger the bet, there's gotta be better days. Oh say
Shalom Yirama, Booyah, say Shalom Aleinu, Yehal Kol Yisrael, V'imru Amen. Oh say Shalom Yirama, Booyah, say Shalom Aleinu, Yehal Kol Yisrael, V'imru Amen. Y'all say Shalom, y'all say Shalom. Y'all say shalom, 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 y'all say shalom.
So normally we end our ciphers and our services with a rap, a freestyle rap. But I think tonight it would actually be a little bit more poignant to do a moment of silence. So if we could all just kind of bow our heads in reverence of the honor of this day and just take a moment of silence for those who have fought the battle for freedom and equality. Martin Luther King is quoted as saying, "The denial of human rights anywhere is a threat to the affirmation of human rights everywhere." Jewish history and culture are a part of everyone's heritage, whether they be Jewish, Christian, Muslim, or other. Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated on April 4th, 1968 at the age of 39. His stirring words continue to live on today, inspiring us to work towards his vision of a world without hatred and without prejudice. His affection and respect for Israel and the Jewish people can inspire us today as we live out our life in honor. Amen. All right, so I just want to thank everybody for being a part of this today, but even a bigger thank you to everyone that tuned in tonight and will be watching on YouTube and on Twitch, as this live stream will be online for everybody to check out at a later time. So special shouts out to anybody that's out there that's trying to make lives better, not just but for themselves, but also more importantly for others. Revere, thank you. Rachel, thank you. Internal Rhyme, Mr. E, Rabbi Adamer, thank y'all so much for joining tonight. Make sure to check us out at rappersandраbbis.com. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, YouTube. I mean, you name it, we're everywhere. Just Google Rappers and Rabbis. We have new music on the way. Shout out to Mystery and Moisha House. We have another retreat. We also have another round of our fellowship coming soon, where we'll be helping each other to empower creative projects, whether it be in music, film, graphic design, photography, spoken word, poetry. We're going to kind of open the cipher up to all different types of creatives and try to kind of empower and help each other to make some of your projects and dreams a reality. So all that coming soon, especially something really big in the works for Passover, which is another incredible time to talk about freedom and equality in the world. So we have a hip hop Haggadah coming out and some amazing stuff for Passover in the coming months. So please stay tuned to everything that we have going on. We will be back live again in a couple weeks. In February, we're probably going to do something interesting. I'm not going to announce it just yet. We're going to wait till we have all the details nailed down. But the next live stream will be in a couple weeks in February. So in the meantime, check us out on YouTube and on Twitch to see everything that we did in 2022. And you can see that we're in store for some really, really important services, ciphers, live streams, and in-person events in 2023. I go by Digital Crates. I'm representing for the Rappers and Rabbis crew. Man, we are a heavenly hip-hop experience. that we bring, embracing all the world's traditions, religions, ethnicities, and cultures. And we are honoring everybody tonight along with the memory of the late, great Dr. Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. And we're out. Shalom, y'all. Peace.
Peace.